Hello and welcome back to another physical education and wellness video. Our first series looked at the overview of the curriculum, the new physical education and wellness curriculum. This series is going to be a quick dive into year planning options. So how to get from where you are now to getting through all of those cusps by the end of the year. So this video series is in conjunction with the ARPDC, and my name is Paul Marlett. So in this video, we are going to be looking at two different parts. As with the last one, for the concurrent sessions, or the ones that are recorded, I'm going to break it up into two sections. My job on these is to try and get into the content as quickly as I can. There's going to be no question and answer, so I'm looking to get these done quicker than the live sessions. So the first video, this one, is all going to be about different ways to plan your year. After that, the second video will be looking at teaching games for understanding. The more you start looking at this new curriculum, the more it starts to make sense to take a look at the lens of TGFU. So for those of you who have never heard of that before, the next video will be a support for that. And for those of you who are well acquainted with it, your choice if you want to watch it or not. So let's dive in. Paul Marlett, who is this guy? If you've seen my other sessions already, I've been teaching phys ed for over 20 years now, and I'm a bit of a pedagogy nerd. I love dialing into the research, figuring out what'll work and what won't. I was thrilled when I was offered the opportunity to support specialists and generalists around the province this year with these video series. So, year planning. Year planning is a hard subject to talk about because everyone has their own kind of philosophies and their own style of building the year. So I'm going to give you a few different ideas. I'm going to show you some templates. I'm going to direct you to a website that has a great template that I've used and provide you with hopefully some different perspectives on how to break up this curriculum into manageable chunks. So the first thing is, are you using months or learning cycles? In Calgary, we're using learning cycles now. So it's just little things to start to consider. The next one is this. So traditional phys ed is based around sports and activities. For example, January would be floor hockey. In the winter months, traditionally, that's where we're doing things like volleyball, basketball, the things that work really well indoors. Spring would be ultimate frisbee. The strategic concept is what the next video is going to is going to be about. So that's going to be looking at how to plan based on the type of activity you're doing. And in elementary, especially in the younger grades, this gives you an opportunity to expose students to an incredible variety of equipment and games while building a key skill, which again is how much of this curriculum is built out. The other one is the dimensions. So in the last video, we talked about the 8 dimensions and then the 7 criteria. So things like gymnastics, things like dance, adventurous, being outdoors. So these are the other pieces that we want to look at. And lastly, this notion of the health and wellness foundations. So in our previous phys ed curriculum, we did have elements of well-being in there. What I am going to suggest is that you actually split the phys ed and the wellness outcomes so it's easier to track. Some of these are going to be embedded into your class, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I've got a tool that might support you with that as well. So again, just another quick look at activity versus strategy. So again, traditionally is on the left-hand side here. So in the first cycle, maybe we're going to spend like 3 weeks doing logs. For those of you who don't know what that means, that stands for low organizational games. Some brilliant books are out there on that. For teaching games for understanding instead of logs, our focus would actually be spatial awareness, which is part of the tactical and strategy portion of the new curriculum. So this is where we are going to play things like the tag. We might get into some capture the flag. We might even get into like some gaga ball, something like that. But with the emphasis of building those skills in spatial awareness. As we move down, soccer and football, those are types of invasion games. Volleyball, basketball, those are not target games. Those are also invasion games. But fitness, though I do a big fitness unit even in elementary. For teaching games for understanding, we can still keep those fitness. But over here, maybe we're going to do a net and wall game unit instead. And the cricket and ultimate, again, those are traditional games. In the strategic lens, what we're looking at is fielding and striking. So as I'm talking through, just keep these in the back of your mind, because this has a huge impact on the way that you plan for the year. Some key questions. Now, for everyone who's a generalist on or watching this, I don't know, and this is why unit planning is tough, because you may be an island unto yourself, and it's up to you to plan your year of phys ed. You may plan with a team, which is always easier, because that way you can leave equipment set up, or you can have certain things up in the gym like the volleyball or the badminton nets. So while you're going through this, keep those things in mind. If you have a phys ed specialist, and if you are the phys ed specialist, it's always nice to just talk to your team about some of these things as well. So first question is, what equipment do you have? You can't play cricket if you don't have cricket bats. Now, that being said, you can make them and have parents make them. Okay, what spaces do you have? I teach out of one of the smallest gyms in Calgary. It is a single badminton court. That's it. And I teach up to 30 junior high kids in there. Do you have outdoor spaces? Do you have hallways that you can use? Do you have a stage? All of these places become key when you're planning, because it gives you different varieties and options. How many students do you have? Next one is, what are you comfortable teaching? I always suggest that if you're starting to teach a new sport, it's important that you yourself know how to do the basic skills. Again, there's more resources around that. I have some resources and do sessions on that at Teachers Conventions. We have an unbelievable wealth of physical educators in this province who run sessions to give you that skill. Last one here is, what are you focusing on in specific cycles? So this is where you want to consider the weather. You want to consider like the time, of course, the time of year, but also like what's coming up. Are you going to do like even an Inuit games unit? Are you going to do a circus unit? Does that tailor into any of the stuff you're doing with your curriculum? Just as a quick review from the last video, I want to keep our minds fairly close to these organizing ideas. So these are the 8 organizing ideas. Now, I've also added some color coding in here, because when we look at planning, we're going to be prioritizing these on the phys ed side, because when we do that, the other pieces kind of all fall into place. So the top one, active living, okay, that's what it is, active living. The movement skills, and from our last video, remember there's 3 components to this. So we have the strategic, the tactical, and the spatial awareness. Next one is the movement skill development. This is where we learn all of our striking, our catching, our kicking. And don't worry, I'm working on some videos to support you to analyze and assess those and to teach those. And the last one is the teamwork component. So these are going to form the bulk, kind of the meat of our physical education side of things. Now, the light blue, these are going to work both within your class, in your wellness, in your health classes, but also in phys ed, in the gym. These are really easy to pull in. The last one is the gray. So nutrition, this is the growth. This is where we have the puberty in grade 4, 5, and 6. It's also where we start to see some of the age and stage in terms of developmental milestones. And finances. These probably aren't things that you're going to be focusing on in the gym. So when I talk about splitting these, this is kind of the framework that I've put forward. All right. So again, you're going to hear this a few times, because for me, this is the most efficient way to do it. And if you want to do it all together, great. Right? I'm not here to tell you what to do, just to provide some insight and some suggestions. So the 2 planning cycles to meet the full curriculum. We're going to be looking at the gym, or what we're doing physically. So when I talk about the gym, I mean that we're trying to maximize students' movement and learning in the gym. Right? Nutrition you can do there, you can make games around it, but it's probably going to be more beneficial to actually do that embedded into some of your other curriculum in that well-being side. So the easiest way for me to do this is I've actually set up all of these tabs. So I'm going to jump through some different ways of looking at this year plan. Many of these are from Alberta Learning and Learn Alberta. Some of them are from the CBE, their implementation documents, and some of them I've built or pulled from some of my colleagues as well. So I put this here as a list, so when you're watching through this, if you want to go back and see them, I'll have links to these things as well. So the first one is this. So this is a typical year plan, and this one comes right from Learning Alberta. So this is an older one, but I love this as a starting point because like a good reading year plan or even a math long-term plan, it kind of lays everything out for us. Okay, so in this one, you'll see it has the dimensions. So the dimensions are the biggest challenge for me in our new curriculum, because what we're talking about with this, we'll see it in the examples. When we're talking about those dimensions, right, we're talking about what are we trying to do here? Are we going to be doing group activities? Is this going to be the dance? Is this going to be when we're going outside for that more adventurous play? I'll just look at this one. It's even easier because it's partly filled out. So next one is the units. So in this one, you see we've got cooperative, net wall, target, invasion. So this one here is based on more of a teaching games for understanding model. If you choose to use a traditional model, fantastic. Go for it, because you can get to the same place from any side of the equation. So if you wanted to do basketball specifically, then that's what you'd put under your unit. Now the general outcomes, these sections here, I can highlight them. These sections from our old curriculum were pretty straightforward because they had a letter and a number. So it was really easy to reference them. So the support document that I referenced in the first video, this is what the work I've been doing over the summer and the first part of the year, is to come up with a method that made sense to identify specific cusps. So we're not having to write down everything in longhand. So again, it's a document that I've created for myself and the people I work with. If you want to change it, go ahead. I'll give you access to the whole document so you can modify it as you want. But the general outcomes for us, this is going to be active living. This is going to be movement skills. It's going to be safety. It's going to be our character development. Right? So this is where we get to kind of dial in. And the specific outcomes, this is where we're literally just going to pick the outcome you're going to work on in that month. The nice thing is when you see the whole document for a specific grade, there's not actually an overwhelming number of cusps to hit. And many of them you can hit in one activity. So if we're already in November, in moving into November, you're like, oh, we haven't done these things. You can embed those specific outcomes in pretty much any activity. The last one I like about this technique is they also have some assessments, evaluations, communication, right? So how are you going to record that? Do you have a rubric? What's working through there? And they also put in the resources and the facilities, right? So you may not have fields in the winter. Here they're using a community pool. So if you're planning with a team, this just gives you an opportunity to start brainstorming, put stuff in and move it around. Okay, and I'll put this PDF in for everyone as well because it has examples for many grades. Just one other thing I want you to see. Hey, stuff like this is gold, even to our specialists out there. So activity choices to consider in planning. And they've broken it down into these dimensions. So gymnastics, individual activities, games. And it just gives you so many things to start taking a look at, because often we get so locked into those traditional units that it's hard to kind of be creative and move through that. Okay, so that's one version. This is something that was, again, put out by the Calgary Board of Education, and this is an interesting way to look at things, because what they did is that they've basically taken the core concepts from all of the 8 organizing ideas, and they've kind of put it in for like the specific month and the specific time. So children explore physical activity in a variety of contexts. Okay, this is the main piece. Here we go. personal experience. So what they've done is for each grade, they've kind of pulled those key guiding questions. So it also gives you that overarching lens. I find in every subject that when we get really focused onto the small details, it gets quite challenging to maintain your focus. So if you know in this month, this is the one we're working on. We're working on spatial awareness. That's the key. It was just kind of an interesting way to look at things. And again, this is another long-range plan that is far simpler than the one I showed you ahead of time. So they've broken this down into weeks. And as you can see, this one is just very streamlined. So week 1, playground games. As we go down, you have the months and the weeks. So cooperative games. In November, you start to see outdoor environmental. So what they've done again is that they've taken that overarching framework and they've given the teachers the flexibility to kind of link in the outcomes that they're going to be hitting in that time. And there is an assessment tool that we'll talk briefly about today. I'm going to do a session deeper on that, so you feel more confident in picking out which outcome for which unit. While we're on the topic of the summary tool, this here is the grade 5 summary tool, and this is the entirety of grade 5. I wonder if I'm going to zoom out here just so you can see it. There we go. So it fits on, like, oh, the bottom is actually a summary for assessment. This page right here, this is the entire grade 5 physical education, health and well-being framework. So as I mentioned before, as we start to dial in on where we're going to start our planning, active living, we actually have 3 cusps, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. When I can see it this way, this is why I conceptualize it this way. When I can see this, now I know, okay, so for September, October, and November, I'm going to be working 1.1 and 1.2. So this is all about motivation. Motivation increases potential for regular activity. Great. Okay, the S&P on this, the last part of that's what we're evaluating students on, is consider why motivation is important to active living. What a great thing to embed into a class. Now these are the discussion pieces. So if that's my focus, I can put that into my long-range planning and I know I'll cover it. The movement skills, this is where it gets a little complicated because remember we have 3 of them. There's my camera. So in this one we got 2A, there's also a 2B and a 2C. But again, when I'm planning, if I know I'm going to be working on spatial awareness, I can just grab those specific pieces from the curriculum, and that's what I'm going to evaluate on. So I just want you to keep this in mind. As we move down, the character is the 3, safety is 4. Now, look, there's only 3 pieces in the safety. And the reason they're in both is that some of these do link into, especially in the older grades, into like safety when you're handling substances, safety when you're out in public. So it has a broad range when we go through it. Here's another version. Okay, so this one here is a little more thorough. You'll notice that the general outcomes here are from the old curriculum. So again, these would have to be changed into the active living, the movement skills, we have safety, we have character development, even some of the relationship pieces. And you'll notice that they're just choosing which ones they're going to hit in each month. I like this to show people this one too because it does have specific sports at the top. So we've got target sports and then they say, well, we're going to use these 3. That's going to be our focus. Target sports here are volleyball and archery. Now volleyball is also a net and wall game, so there is crossover between them. And in this one, they do have all of their grades, kind of, or the 4, 5, and 6 on the same document. And again, you'll see this is actually built very similar to the one from Alberta Learning. All right, this is a website that I will give you a link to, and this is a really cool website. These guys do some great stuff. It's the Phys Ed Specialists, and this one is called How to Plan a Year in 15 Minutes. So it's going over a lot of the stuff that I've already talked about. So in here, you see they're using, again, big ideas, which means the teachers now have the flexibility to go into some of the resources, find some kicking activities. And as you're doing that, that's where the skill comes in, because we don't just want kids to play the same game over and over, even if they're having fun, because they're not building an awareness for that sport. He also has a little downrange. I can come up with templates, but again, everyone has their own way of designing them. So I'll point you towards this. I use Google Sheets to build all of my stuff. And this is it's a neat way to kind of look at it. He also takes it one step further to look at, make sure that you're not missing holidays and stuff like that, because they do make a difference. Now, this little document here. So this is how I personally am setting up for the year. For me, it's important that I hit all of the cusps, especially when we're dealing with a new curriculum, just so we understand, so I understand where they're fitting in. So when I go to the gym, I'm a paper guy. And a lot of my mentors, even when iPads came out, they really encouraged me to stay using paper, because in the gym, you need to be flexible. You're going to put stuff down. And to have a clipboard with you regularly, it means that you can assess very quickly. So in here, you'll notice that it's color-coded just like it is in the document. So the gym use in here, I just input all of my student names from D2L. That's what we use. So I've got this is the entire set of cusps. So active living, movement skills. I've got 7 character skills. This one's for grade 6. I've got 4 safety. And I've got 4 relationship goals. So I try and come back to this every couple of months. So I'm not just assessing once and moving on. This is something that is a continual process for me. For the classroom, this is if you are teaching a thematic or you're teaching a specific health. This also shows you the crossover. So character is in both of these setups, because I'm going to see character in the class just as much as I'm going to see it there. Same thing with relationships. Relationships, I am going to evaluate in both places. Now, the other piece to this tool is a summary of what each of those cusps are, but it has to do with the skills and procedures. So you can have a quick reference to it. Okay, and this is the grade 3. I actually have it so it's accurate to each grade. So you don't have to go by and check, because, again, one of the challenging things is that across the grades, there are different numbers of active living. There are different numbers of character skills. So they're not completely aligned across the grades that way. Seen that one? Fantastic. And just so you're aware, this is an example of a pre-made activity. So this is a neat little thing called the Wall Ball Partner Challenge. It hits so many cusps, and you can build a lot of soft skills in it. But this is actually from PE Canada. So it actually gives you the description. It gives us some reflection questions. These reflection questions are where in phys ed we see if those kids are building those soft skills. So there it is. There's a whole bunch of ideas. So when you are prioritizing these skills, for me, as I was mentioning, I always want to start with the movement skills. What are the skills or the activities that I'm going to be building with? So when we start with the movement skills, for example, here I've got tactics. So this one says tactics for individuals, groups, and goals include changing direction, speed, levels, and passing an object. Fantastic, right? Like that is enough to set me up for probably a whole month. And they give you more information as you go through. Okay, let's go to the next one here. So this is B. So this is now elements of movement. Other things that I could look at. So if I include 2B1, this is the first of the movement skills. This is going to now be in locomotive movements that include slide and chase, non-locomotor that are twist, raise, and lower. What a brilliant warm-up. Okay, so how can you now embed that skill into a game that you're playing? This one also has object manipulation. So when we're in grade 3 and 4, we start to throw, we start to punt, striking. This here is a great thing to do for a fielding unit. Right? I may not even cover all of this at once. Maybe I'm going to push this off to when I'm doing cricket, or when I'm doing some kind of batting, or even volleyball at that case. Oh, hello, come on back. So I would start with the movement skills, get those blocked out, and then we can move into the active living. The active living, this is about goals. This is about what kids enjoy in active living. This is about how to talk about physical education and physical activity. This blue one down here, participate in physical activity that increases in complexity. Okay, identify and implement personal strategies for overcoming challenges in a variety of settings. These are discussions. When we look at teaching games for understanding, it's all about increasing complexity of the games and the activities that we're working on. So we've got some movement skills. Now we've got some active living. Now the next thing I look at is the safety. So here's a great one. Examine situations that require proactive planning. So I've made a note here that says every gym class is an opportunity to review. So what kind of proper gear do we need? What guidelines do we have when we walk into a gym? Do we just run, or do we stop and look around for hazards? It takes less than 20 seconds to have students identify hazards, then they can go. As students do it themselves, you just check that off on your list. You see a kid do it, fantastic. We move through. And character. So elementary generalists are brilliant at holding kids accountable for their actions and helping them connect, right? So this piece, this character piece, many of it has specific outcomes that you have to reach, but a lot of it is just like this. Oh, missed it. Roles can require specific actions, behaviors, and responsibilities. Fantastic. In the gym, it's really easy to give kids those roles to help them realize the roles they're playing and what impact they have. So as I'm planning, I'll take a look and go, okay, let's make November about roles. Right? Now this one here, you can see families are unique and can be multi-generations. This is one that I'm going to probably not do in the gym. This is one that I'm probably going to move into my health and wellness side of the planning. Here's the main headings: cycle, movement skills, active living, safety, character, the unit I'm using, and the locations. So this again is another simple way to do it. You have to use something that's going to work for you. Hopefully one of these has kind of tweaked on you or spurred your interest on how to get going on that. The cart or the horse, which comes first? Honestly, if you start planning with your outcomes, that'll give you an opportunity to then go and find activities. However, you're probably going to end up in a very similar place if you plan the activities or the chunks or the strategic opportunities you want to do, and then look for outcomes to fit into that. So it's half of this, 2 dozen of another, whatever that saying is. Start planning. Either plan outcomes or plan for chunks of activity, and then look for those connections. PE Specialist Online, this is a hot link for the slide deck when you're looking through it. Tracking tools, showed you those. Again, I'll have some PDF files for you to take a look at. And the reminder for curriculum overview series. So just some things to keep in mind from our last video. I'm going to slide my picture up so I'm not in the yellow. First thing is that we have 8 dimensions. We also have physical dimensions of rhythmic, gymnastic, expressive, individual and group, challenging, adventurous, cultural, and games. If you like to do things on a computer, these are great drop downs to have. It's important we have all of them. So can we embed even cultural games into an entire month? And the health dimensions. These ones, for me, would be in a different planning sheet. So the nutrition, I'm probably not doing that in the gym. So if I'm going to embed that into a science class, just keeping track of where we're doing that, when we're doing it in the year. So I am Paul Marlette. Here's my stats, paul.marlette@arpdc.ab.ca or marlettepaul@gmail.com. I look forward to seeing you in the next session that's all about teaching games for understanding. It's a fabulous, fabulous topic, something I'm very passionate about. Other than that, I am yours in pursuit of a healthier, more active, happier population. We'll see you soon.